Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the legislation portion of our open forum today. My name is Sky Whitman. I will be your MC. Today we have our two candidates in the absence of the other two, Shante Smith and Anthony Decker. We have the other two. Would you please introduce yourselves?
I am DeAngelo LaVette. I am my third year of studies here at IPFW. I am a psychology/pre-med major. I'm very involved on campus. I'm involved in 3 student orgs. I'm a senator. I'm the president of the Black Collegian Caucus, and I am running for vice president of legislation.
I'm Jonathan Humberson, and I'm a sophomore here at IPFW. I'm a chemistry major, which means that they reward me for making things blow up. It's awesome. And I, of course, am running for Vice President of Legislation.
Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question presented to them, beginning with Cody Tennell.
All right. First question, and this is for both of you. We'll start with DeAngelo. How do you feel about the student organization chartering process as it exists currently, and what changes, if any, would you push for to improve this area?
I feel that the current chartering process needs to be revisited. We have different types of organizations, and we really don't have constitution templates for every type of organization that we have. We have honor societies, we have special interest groups, and the constitution template that we have really is geared for one type of organization. So oftentimes the problems that occur when it goes through the Student Affairs Committee is that they need to make revisions to the Constitution. They don't really understand that. So if we were able to make constitutional templates for all the type of student orgs that we have, and even with Greek organizations, special interest group, it will make the process efficient, and it can be done in a timely manner.
Thank you. Next candidate, please.
Okay. Well, first of all, we have student organizations here on campus because some way or another, they're benefiting some part of the student body, okay? Whether it's a particular common interest or whether it's a group that seeks to advance a certain agenda, okay? It all comes back to there's a certain portion of the student body that has this certain desire, and being able to form a student organization helps them to fulfill that. Now, as DeAngelo said, there's not a one-size-fits-all solution to this because the Anime 101 Club is not going to have the same requirements as the college Republicans or Democrats, okay? They have fundamentally different goals, and the better we can make the chartering process reflect that, and the easier we can make it for the people who don't need in-depth, very elaborate structures to their student organizations, the better it's going to be, and the easier it's going to be for the student body to come together and act on those desires.
Thank you. Next question, please.
This is to both candidates. Can you describe one of your significant personal faults? And this question isn't intended to get a cookie-cutter answer, so it needs to be a legitimate fault that you recognize. An honest person should be able to recognize their own faults and clearly express them.
Okay. First of all, thank you. That is exactly the kind of question I wanted. I think one of my biggest faults is I have an unfortunate tendency on occasion to run my mouth. Some of you may know this. When I get going off on something, I can just go off into my own little tangent and keep going there far beyond the time that any reasonable person should have to put up with me. So one of my ongoing struggles is keeping myself constrained, okay? Having to pull all this down to 1 minute is a tad challenging at times, but that's one of the things I keep having to come back to. I continually try and revisit my own communication to try and make it more efficient, more effective, and more understandable, because I can be long-winded at times.
I would have to say my issue will be being redundant. Oftentimes, I repeat stuff quite often to make sure the person really understands what I'm trying to express in different ways. And I know someone talked to me about that. They say, DeAngelo, you often repeat yourself like 9 or 10 times in Senate when you didn't say the exact same thing, but I oftentimes repeat it, hopefully that people can see it from different viewpoints. So I try to pull back on that. That way I understand. If I repeat it, say it once, if the person don't understand it, they'll tell me. And then I can explain it again. Well, I have a problem with that, so I'm trying to control that not being too redundant.
Okay. This question is for the both of you. Candidate LaVette will go first. As you know, with politics, there is always a lack of integrity that goes on. Some people choose to do otherwise, and some people choose to, go by the rules and follow by the book. What is your solution for those who lack the integrity that goes on within politics?
My viewpoint on people who lack integrity is to blatantly say get rid of them, and not in a way of pushing them out the organization, but there's measures to take. If it calls for impeachment, it calls for recall of justices. Therefore, we have to recall the justices because they're not living up to the expectations and the duties that was set before them. When you come into a position as VPL, you know what is binding to you by the Constitution. You know the integrity that you must uphold. And if that is not an oath that you can take, I don't believe you should hold that seat, and you should let someone else do the job efficiently and effectively.
Go ahead.
Okay. Now, first of all, just to clarify, when you talk about a lack of integrity, I mean, for example, someone who has agreed to perform certain duties as part of their position but isn't, or is letting personal matters get in the way of that, or is abusing their position for their own gain, something along those lines?
I would go more along the lines of abusing their position.
Okay. First of all, it's very, very important to make sure that the person in question knows that what they're doing is wrong, that they're doing it intentionally, that it's not some sort of miscommunication. But once you've made absolutely sure that the person in question knows that what they're doing is wrong, that it's an abuse of their power, and that it's not acceptable, then I don't think there's really any excuse for that. I mean, you may try and see if the person will amend their ways, if they'll come back around to the sorts of integrity that we need in student government. But if not, there's really no excuse for that. I'd say go through whatever measures necessary to take them out of that position, because I would rather have half a dozen people in the entire student government who are actually committed to what they're doing than have 200 that are kind of so-so.
Thank you. Next question, please.
All right, this is for candidate Humberson, individually. At yesterday's town hall meeting, your closing remarks centered around ice cream, which may have led many students to believe that you do not take this position seriously. If elected, do you plan to take this role seriously? And if so, how will you prove this to the student body?
Excellent. Okay. Yes, I did, in fact, end by talking about ice cream. Now, I feel like perhaps that may have been misinterpreted, and I feel like perhaps people look at me and they see that I'm not very grim or dour. They see that I have this perpetual kind of joking sensibility, and they think that means I'm not serious. And I think that's it's kind of an unfortunate generalization, because yes, I may be joking at some times, I may be frivolous, but that in no way means that I don't take this position seriously. I absolutely do. That's why I'm here. I wouldn't be taking all this time away from my life if I weren't serious. And if I'm elected, I may joke, but don't let that convince you that I don't plan to execute my position to the best of my ability.
Thank you.